see, which is the star that the three wise men from Africa saw and decided and determined this is the sign that we have been looking for. Touch your neighbor, because I want you to get this today, and ask them, what is your sign? Christmas time. Even Jesus in Luke 21 and 25 says that at my coming there will be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars. And those of you who are from the country know that your farmer ancestors used the farmer's almanac. And using that farmer's almanac, they based upon the confluence and the arrangement of the planets and the stars and the moon, determined when to plant their crops. Well, if this be true from a physical perspective, if this be true from an environmental perspective, we know that there is a counterpart, there is a parallel. To everything that occurs in the physical realm, there is a counterpart in the spirit realm. And so then there ought to be the means by which a true believer can be identified by his or her sign. I'm talking about spiritual sign now. And that spiritual sign is based on your relationship with the Son, that is the S-O-N, Son. When you were birthed into consciousness of who you are as a child of God, then there ought to be a sign that you have been in relationship with the Son. And that sign is not how long your dress is. That song is not how big your Bible is. That sign is not based on rituals and dogma and doctrine, but that sign is based on this. Jesus says, by this sign shall they know that you are my disciples, by the love that you show for one another. That's the sign. That's the sign that you are a believer, that you are a follower after Jesus Christ. And it follows then that you cannot love your neighbor unless you love yourself. Because Jesus says in Matthew 22 and 37 and 39, love your neighbor the same way that you love yourself. And if you don't love yourself, I hate to be the one to tell you today, but you don't have the sign of a believer and a follower of Jesus Christ. The sign is that you rid yourself of your egomaniacal self-centeredness and develop a level of selflessness so that you cease to be selfish. Now let's look at this text for a moment. The text opens, the book of Joshua opens. The people of God, the Israelites, are on the banks of the promised land. They can see it. They can look over and see everything that God has promised them. It has been 40 years, something that they should have arrived at 39 years before. They have just gotten to the threshold just east of Canaan, the promised land. And there they sit. And God says to Joshua, you know, Joshua, you and Caleb are the only two left. Everybody else that saw the Exodus out of Egypt, everybody else that crossed the Red Sea is dead. That was 39 years ago. And the two of you are the only two left because everybody was so disobedient. Yes, I promised you that you would get to the promised land. And I didn't fail on my promise, but it's because of disobedience and fear. So I had them to wander around because they didn't have obedience. They were gripped by fear. So I just let y'all wander around for 40 years. Ain't that amazing? You would think that after passing the same trees and bushes, after 1 year, somebody said, hey, hold up, we've been this way before. We need to go in another direction. But for 40 years, they go round and around. And God says, Joshua, because of your obedience, you were one of the 2 of the 12. You and Caleb, y'all were the only 2 that said, we can take it. We can take the promised land. Everybody else was afraid and fearful and talked about the people in the promised land being giants and us appearing as grasshoppers. And because of that, Joshua, all of those folk are dead. And for 39 years, Joshua, you have been teaching the people that if you are obedient to God, you will be successful. If you are not obedient, if you're disobedient to God, you will face some tragic circumstances in your life. So here's what I want you to do, Jacob. I want you to send the priest ahead. And the only thing between you and what I promise you all is the Jordan River. You got to cross it. Now, I want you to have faith. I want you to tell the priests to take the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant symbolized the presence of God. As long as they had the Ark of the Covenant, they had the presence of God with them. So he said, I want you to tell the priests to take the Ark of the Covenant and go on out into the Jordan. Don't worry, priest. Just God said, go on out there. And when you get midway, I want you to stop. When the water starts coming up high, just stop right there. And God is going to, just like he did the Red Sea, he's going to do it with the Jordan now. He's going to push the waters back. And there you will stand right in the middle. Anybody in here ever been in the middle of a storm? Of a flood about to take you over? And God divided it and allowed you to stand in the midst of a storm? God said, just stand there. And I'm going to divide it. And he divides the waters, and the priests are standing in the middle of the water. He said, now listen, I want everybody to cross on over. Y'all go on and cross over, and the people cross over. And he said, after they cross over, priests, I want one man for every tribe, 12 men, one for each of the 12 tribes, to pick up one of those big stones and put it on their shoulder and take it on over on the dry land into Canaan.